Oh, hi there, and welcome to another episode of One of Swords TV with your host, Dan Amrich. I'm One of Swords. I'm Activision's community manager. And what I try to do is answer your questions once a week here on YouTube. You have to send your questions to youtube at oneofswords.com for me to get them. But if it's a question I can answer, I will certainly try. And today's question comes from Davin Bivens. I think I'm saying that right. Or Davin Bivens? Not sure. Oh boy, it's a Blur email. Many people know that I'm a really big fan of the Activision 2010 racing game Blur from Bizarre Creations. Hey Dan, a new spark in Blur has just risen. A new game, Blur Overdrive, has been released for mobile devices. It's receiving mixed criticism from our lovely Blur community. Some people hate it, and some people want a proper Blur sequel, and some are still going to get it in hopes that if they do, that Activision might still see that Blur is alive and kicking. But I feel like this will lead me back to my previous question of, will there be, or is there a possibility of a new Blur in the future? And then he goes on to sort of restate that in various ways. You know, is it a possibility that Activision would then sell the license or something like that? It's a good question, but I feel like it's a question I've answered before, so I kind of want to answer it in blanket terms. The answer to, is this game franchise from the past going to get a sequel? Is it likely to be a sequel? Do you think there's a chance? This is a combination of my personal opinion combined with a very awkward thing of me being a spokesperson for a giant company. So, logically, when you look at it, Activision has a lot of IPs in storage, right? Activision has a very large library of IPs. All the Infocom games, all the classic 2600 games, many of the Sierra games, not all of them, as I mentioned on previous shows, that, you know, some licenses have been sold off or given away to different people. But there is always a chance that there could be a new game in a franchise if there's the right reason and the right opportunity. Blur Overdrive is not made by Activision. It is made for mobile devices. It's out now for iOS and Android. It is actually made by a team of developers, Marmalade, and they were, I believe they were also the core people who made the Call of Duty Zombies game for iPad, or at least one of the Call of Duty Zombies games for iPads. So, this is a perfect example of if Activision as an entity working on things like Call of Duty, Skylanders, Destiny, you know, Cabela's, things like that, if they aren't going to publish it themselves, would they be willing to let somebody else with the right idea and who feels that they have the right opportunity do it? And that's what Blur Overdrive is. So, yes, there could be a full console sequel to Blur someday. There could also be a full console sequel to Keystone Capers from 1983. There could be another Planetfall game. But that's only because I'm talking not in terms of, well, I know that Activision is investigating this. I can only speak in terms of there is no legal reason why there could not be. There might be a really good business reason, or there might be a really good creative reason. But you can never say never when it comes to an IP. It's just a matter of, is now the right time and is this the right idea? So, although fans are hoping for, say, a Crash Bandicoot sequel, I've dealt with that before, are fans looking forward to things? Yeah, we all have dreams of games that we would like to see come back. And yes, they are all possible. And I am talking purely in the realm of there's nothing stopping it from happening except the right combination of elements. So I can't give you conjecture and say, of course there could be another Blur game, and have you take that as some sort of promise that there will be. And that's my problem with these kind of questions, and I get them very often, and I know why fans ask, because fans really want to play a new installment of a game that had a really big effect on them. I would love to personally see a new Blur game. I was happy with Blur Overdrive, and I immediately downloaded it. It happens to be a free-to-play app. I wanted to see how they interpreted what I loved about Blur for mobile, and why would you call it specifically Blur? You know, what were the game elements that they wanted to carry over? What changed? Stuff like that. So what you may see is things like Blur go into mobile, or Gabriel Knight. They're doing a remake. The original team that did one of the Gabriel Knight's games is doing that, and Activision happens to own that IP, but they worked out a licensing agreement. So Activision is not making the new Gabriel Knight game, but the people who really feel passionate about it and had the right plan did come to an agreement so that they could use the license for that. So those kind of things are how franchises will probably go on for the near future. You know, like, you may see more of those come up, and while it's not an official sequel the way that you're thinking of an official sequel, it's certainly, yeah, it's the kind of thing that says, are there still legs for this franchise? Do people still want this game? Do people still like this brand? And yeah, sometimes that can be used as a, let's see what the weather is like. but it's certainly only one factor. So I can't tell you if there will be another Blur sequel. I don't know what the future is for any of these things. But I personally, as a fan of Blur, see the fact that Blur is considered important enough to be licensed out for a mobile title to a third-party company as a good thing. I think that's cool. We'll see what the future brings. But the answer, once and for all, on this, my 1-year anniversary of doing One of Swords TV, is my favorite game going to get a sequel? Maybe. If you have a question that is not that question, and you'd like to get an answer to it, send it to me at youtube@oneofswords.com. I will do my best to try to answer it. I do kind of feel like a broken record, so let's start off the new year of One of Swords TV with some fresh intel. In the meanwhile, go to oneofswords.com. That's my website. I have a lot of interesting stuff there that I hope that you will like. And thanks for watching. I will see you again next week.